Movement tips and lifestyle hacks brought to you by FitLab PGH. Movement, a part of making your life complete. FitLab PGH is back with another movement tip and lifestyle hack. We're going to talk a little bit about pelvis today. As you know, FitLab PGH is there to give you some information with our movement tips and lifestyle hacks for somebody who isn't a professional, maybe goes and sees a professional, a personal trainer, a Pilates instructor, a physical therapist, and sometimes they use terms or they talk about parts of your body and you may not be exactly sure what they're talking about, and quite frankly, you may be a little bit embarrassed to say, I don't understand, because it can be a little bit intimidating in the Pilates studio or in the gym or if you're a patient. So we're going to talk a little bit about pelvic position today, what experts are talking about when they talk about you having an anterior tilted pelvis, a posterior tilted pelvis, or a neutral pelvis. What you have to remember is you have a hip joint, which is your femur or your upper leg bone, and it connects into your pelvis, and the pelvis is attached in the back with a bone called the sacrum. It's actually multiple little bones that are fused together. But what the nice thing about using bones for determining posture and for describing things is bones are static, they do move, but unlike if we're using muscles, which can get bigger and smaller, bones are pretty static in size throughout your lifespan. So if you stand up or if you're sitting, you have two bumps on the front of your hips. These are actually part of your pelvis. We call these the ASISs, or the anterior superior iliac spines. You have an iliac crest, which is kind of the top of the pelvis on either side. If you're a football fan, and if you're from Pittsburgh, we know you probably are, you may have heard about that athlete getting a hip pointer. That's a bruise right above the iliac crest. So what we want to do is give you a brief idea of what somebody means when they talk about an anterior pelvic tilt, a posterior pelvic tilt, or a neutral pelvis. So if you find those two bumps, you put the palms of your hands on those bumps, you put your fingers towards the middle of your legs. What you can do is you can tuck your butt underneath. The cue I kind of use for some of my clients that I work with is I ask them if they were spanked as a child, and if I have an older population, they say yes. So it's kind of like, think about what you did just before mom or dad whacked your butt. You kind of tucked your butt under. Sometimes I use the description, if you ever grabbed a dog's tail when you were a kid and the dog tucked his tail under. So what we have here is we have the pelvis. We have those two bumps to the anterior superior iliac spines. When they tilt kind of up in the air as you tuck your butt under, what we see, or what we term that as, is a posterior pelvic tilt. So your whole pelvis has tilted posterior. I kind of like to call that to some of my clients the cocktail party pose, because they're standing there at a cocktail party kind of talking and hanging out. We don't like the posterior tilt. We'll talk about that probably in a future FitLab PGH movement tip and lifestyle hack. The exact opposite of the posterior pelvic tilt is the anterior tilt. So think of yourself as the cheerleader, where you stick your butt out, or if you're a gymnast, you stick your butt out. For somebody like me, who doesn't have the ability to do that movement, this feels really awkward. But in the posterior pelvic tilt, if you find those ASISs, or anterior superior iliac spines, again, put your hands there, you'll notice that my hands kind of tilt downward. So a posterior pelvic tilt, the hands kind of tilt upward as the pelvis tilts posteriorly. Anterior pelvic tilt, the hands tilt downward when the palms are on the ASISs, or we can be like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Posterior pelvic tilt, anterior pelvic tilt, neutral pelvis. You'll probably see us talk more in the future about what this means, things you look for, why you might be concerned about that. But now we hope you've got a little knowledge when somebody mentions your pelvic position, you know what they mean when they talk about anterior, posterior, or neutral pelvis. Thanks for joining FitLab PGH for another movement tip and lifestyle hack. 3 times a week, FitLab PGH brings you a movement tip or lifestyle hack. Thanks to the Pilates Body for providing us a locale for filming.